Njideka used the cloth she uses to support the tray on her head to chase the bird away when it mistakenly hit Ojugo, who was coming from behind. In anger, Ojugo hit Njideka so hard that she fell to the ground unconscious. Welcome to Iyagba's Epic Tales. Once upon a time lived a woman called Ojugo. Ojugo was married to a wealthy chief named Chief Ikenna. She also sells expensive wrappers and jewelries in the markets. She had 3 clothes stores and they were the largest in the markets. Ojugo was not from her husband's village. She had moved to the village many years ago when Chief Ikenna saw her and married her. Ojugo has been married to Chief Ikenna for 4 years but bore no child for him. Ojugo was quite a rude and pompous woman. She looked down on people who were not as wealthy as her and her husband. As a poor person around Ojugo, one mistake such person would do is ask for financial assistance from Ojugo. Anyone who makes such mistake, Ojugo would give the person the insult of their life. If I had not worked hard and had been lazy like you, would you see me to come beg for money? Ojugo would usually reply such person. One would think that Ojugo, being a woman looking for the fruit of the womb, would at least be nice to children and embrace all child irrespective of how they look. But that wasn't the case. Ojugo scoffed and would move her body to one side whenever a child who may be playing around tries to go close to her, especially if the child was dirty and poor. This life is funny and unfair. See me with all the money to give a child the best life it deserves. But the gods have refused to give me one, but would rather allow these poor and dirty people to have children. What a shame, Ojugo would say. She would chase every child born from a poor background and only touch children of her wealthy friends whose husbands are chiefs and are of the same social status. Her attitude caused her husband to worry, and he never stopped advising her to change or at least embrace children more, so that they would be blessed with a child also. But Ojugo would not listen to her husband, neither would she change for good. On the 4th year of their marriage, Chief Ikenna got tired and married another wife. And 5 years later, the second wife bore 2 children for Chief Ikenna, 2 beautiful daughters. Ojugo was still unmoved. She would not even allow her stepchildren come close to her. So, she has 2 children for Chief, and so what? Look, I remain Chief's first wife and first love, she would boast. One day, Ojugo got to find out that her husband had willed all his property to his second wife and his 2 children in the event of his death. Ojugo was furious and confronted her husband about the issue as to why he had not willed anything to her despite being his first wife and being with him for a long time. Her husband explained that though he loves her so much, but their custom forbids him to will any of his properties to her because she hadn't given him a child. He explained to her that his hands were tied. Ojugo would hear nothing of it. She complained to a few friends and some elders who confirmed that her husband was saying the truth when he said that his hands were tied. However, they told her that if she is able to conceive and bear even just a child for her husband before his death, the will be changed and she will get a larger percentage of her husband's will because she is the first wife. Chief Ikenna confirmed what they had told Ojugo to be true, and so for the first time after years of being married, Ojugo became desperate to have a child. She began visiting many herbal doctors and started taking the herbal concoctions given to her to help her get pregnant. But after 18 months of desperately seeking for the fruit of the womb, Ojugo was here to get pregnant. Then she decided to visit a medicine man. You have a child whom you have abandoned many years ago. Until you accept and welcome back the child into your life, only then would you conceive for your husband, the chief priest told Ojugo. Ojugo could tell that the chief priest was right. Indeed, she had had a baby many years ago before she moved to this village, but she had also abandoned the baby. Many years ago, when Ojugo was still very young, she was from a poor background and lived with her poor mother who was also a widow. Ojugo worked as a maid for an old woman. The old woman's matured son, who was very much older than Ojugo, took an interest on Ojugo and liked her and wanted to marry her, but she refused. However, the old woman and her son, being people who get what they want because of their wealth and status, paid bride price to Ojugo's mother, and because the money was quite a huge sum, Ojugo's mother grew greedy and accepted the money and offered Ojugo and forcefully gave Ojugo to them. The months Ojugo was married to the old woman's son were the most terrible months of her life, as she hated being with the man. Ojugo sought for ways to run away from the man and from the village, but found none, until one day when she found out that she could sneak as one of the farm workers of a cocoa farmer to another village. But unfortunately at that time, she found out that she was already with child, and because she would not want to carry the burden of raising a child or carrying any child along with her, Ojugo waited till she delivered her baby, and the next day she abandoned the baby and sneaked out of the village. She settled in her current village and worked hard to the position she is today. However, Ojugo never forgave her mother for selling her to a man because of money, and that is why she now hates being poor and hated poor people. After what the chief priest had said to her, Ojugo wondered how she could find her child, for it had been many years. Ojugo decided to go back to her village to look for the old woman and her son, but when she went, she was told that the old woman and her son are both dead. The old woman had died a long time ago, and her son died 9 years after her. Ojugo concluded that maybe she was not destined to have another child after that one, so she decided to go on with her life. There was a young girl who hawks akara. Akara is a fried bean cake, but mostly known and called akara in Nigeria. The name of this girl was Njideka. Ojugo's co-wife loves Njideka's akara, and so does her children. The woman never fails to buy from her, and so Njideka stops first at their compound every morning. She goes to hawk her akara. Whenever Njideka was in the compound, She would greet Ojugo, as she was also always around when she stops by to sell her akara, but Ojugo would not respond. Rather, she would roll her eyes to show disdain and hissed at the young girl. I wonder how someone would choose to buy and eat from a low-life pig, Ojugo would say, referring to her co-wife and to Njideka as the low-life pig. On one day, Njideka had placed a tray of akara balls on a stool she found in front of the compound while she was waiting for her customer, Ojugo's co-wife. Ojugo came out and discovered that it was her new stool Njideka had placed a tray of akara. And before Njideka could get to lift her tray from the stool, Ojugo angrily carried the tray and flung it to the ground, ruining Njideka's goods and akara balls. That day, Ojugo's co-wife had to pay for the damages after consoling the poor young girl. One day, Njideka went to sell akara to her usual customer in Ojugo's compound. A bird was trying to perch on a tray of akara. Njideka used the cloth she uses to support the tray on her head to chase the bird away when it mistakenly hit Ojugo, who was coming from behind. In anger, Ojugo hit Njideka so hard that she fell to the ground unconscious. Chief Ikenna, who was at home at the time, and his second wife also rushed poor Njideka to the village's herbalist. Njideka, who was still weak, had to remain in the herbalist's hut to receive full treatment. A guardian whom she asked the akara for said that she cannot stay with Njideka at the herbalist's hut as she needs to run her akara business. And so, Chief Ikenna, who is now very angry at Ojugo, forced her to go stay with Njideka in the herbalist's hut. Ojugo, seeing how angry her husband was, reluctantly obeyed him. The next morning, the herbalist asked Ojugo to take off Njideka's clothes so they could clean her, as she was still too weak to take a bath herself. As Ojugo reluctantly took Njideka's clothes off, she noticed a huge birthmark on Njideka's left thigh. Ojugo has exactly the same mark at exactly the same spot. She shivered when she saw the mark. Anyways, Ojugo patiently waited for Njideka to be strong again and when she could speak. She inquired from Njideka about the mark. Njideka told Ojugo that she was born with it. She then asked her where she came from and who her parents were, and Njideka told her that her grandmother told her that her mother had abandoned her with her father and paternal grandmother because she was angry to be married to her father. Njideka went on to reveal that she has been living with her maternal grandmother since her paternal grandmother and father died. Ojugo asked for the name of her maternal grandmother and for the name of her village, and Njideka told her. At this junction, Ojugo realized that Njideka was the child she had abandoned many years ago. When Njideka was better, she traveled with her to her village to confirm if the grandmother Njideka spoke about was her own mother, and her suspicions were right. Ojugo was at loss for words. So, her daughter had been around her all this while, and she had only been cruel to her. Ojugo's mother pleaded with her daughter to forgive her for forcefully giving her away in marriage to a much older man. She confessed that she regretted her actions and had not been able to forgive herself all these years. Ojugo forgave her mother and also pleaded with Njideka to forgive her also. Ojugo confessed that she was also tired of being a bitter woman, and that though she acted tough outside, She was broken inside and did not know how to get healing. She was grateful that she found her daughter and that she and her mother were now in good terms. She returned back to her husband's village, and Chief Ikenna, being a loving and understanding man, forgave her also for her past. He also accepted Njideka as his child and showered her with the same love he showered Ojugo. 1 year later, Ojugo conceived and bore a son. The whole family lived happily ever after as one big family. The lessons to be learned from this story is that 1. Holding onto grudges only perpetuates pain, while forgiveness has the potential to mend broken bonds and create a happier life. Ojugo had a troubled past which made her broken inside and lived with inner pain and hatred most parts of her life. But when she decided to forgive her mother and let go, it healed her deep wounds, meaning that forgiveness is a powerful force. Secondly, we saw that Ojugo's disdain for Njideka, whom she later discovered was her own daughter, exemplifies the consequences of harsh judgments. The moral lesson is that it is essential to treat everyone with kindness and empathy, as one never knows the true circumstances or connections that exist. Avoiding judgment can prevent future regrets and foster positive relationships. The end. I hope you enjoyed the story and have learned a thing or two from it. I would love to know. Please leave a comment. Thank you for watching and see you in our next video. Bye.